Hey y'all, my name is Travis Lee, and today I have the pleasure of walking through JobTread as a deck building business. I personally have built many decks in my life. Hopefully, none of them are near the level of what you guys are building. They were decent, just I've seen some of the pictures from our customers, and they certainly are taking things to a whole nother level. But the basic tenets of JobTread are going to be consistent from industry to industry, but deck builders specifically really focus on a few key features like providing selections to the customer. Daily logs and the project management side of things are going to be extremely important as well. And the purpose of the video today is really just to focus on those things. So there's a lot going on with JobTread, but the core of JobTread is actually pretty simple, and that's what I want to focus on. So let's get straight into it. All right, I'm going to start by going into your main settings here. And I just want to highlight the fact that you can set up a web form so all of your customers can come in from your website or from a link that you provide them. This will create those customer contacts or those vendor contacts for you automatically. Just eliminating that double entry, having to go in the system and kind of manually add customers and vendors. I think of these as your contact list, so everyone you've worked with in the past, but the core of JobTread is really going to be the jobs themselves. So I'm going to skip over there. And one thing I want to highlight is the fact that it looks kind of like a spreadsheet, right? The reason why is because this is totally customizable. I can click on this gear icon and go into the Fields tab, and I can turn information on or off. There are basic things that we're tracking about every job, like the customer, what location it is, but there's a whole host of other options or a whole host of questions that you can ask for every job, like who's the project manager, who's the sales rep, what's the budget for the customer. All of those are custom fields in our system, and those can be displayed directly on the job list as well. Another thing I really want to highlight is something I set up every one of my customers with, which is a Kanban view. So this is effectively taking your full list of jobs, but it's reorganizing them by one of the custom fields you've set up. In this case, it's the status. And so to me, visually, this is the easiest way to understand where all my projects are at a given moment in time. So everything is going to start in this left-hand column as a new lead, and then we're just going to drag these through the sales process. And the beautiful thing here is that we can customize these statuses to fit your business. These are effectively just answer choices to a question, but these are going to become the stages in the sales pipeline and construction process for your company. So let's actually just build a job together. Let's go through that process, build a job, build an estimate, pretend we're sending this off to the customer. So in the top right of the screen, plus job, this is going to bring up my customer database. You can choose an existing customer. This is a search. So if I search for, Ricky Williams, I'm going to see him pop up there. Let's say it's a brand new customer. So if we type in Vince Young, it's going to give us the option to create a new customer on the fly. So let's go back though. Let's do this job for Ricky here. Select them. It's going to pull in this primary location automatically. If it is a new location, I can certainly change that. But then down below, we have all the job specific information. So a fixed price job is generally speaking going to be the standard for a deck build. And then down below, these are those custom fields. So you're not going to see those in your system by default, but these are ones that you can set up within your settings under the custom fields tab. And then you can start to track this information for every job. Something really cool you can do as well, upload a cover photo. So I'll get a picture of the existing deck here that we're going to demo, and I'll create the job, and we're off to the races. So left-hand side of the screen on this job dashboard, I see the financial summary, I see the custom fields, I see who's a part of the project. Middle of the page, if I want to start sending messages, this is where I do it. And then down below, we have a feed similar to Facebook where everything that happens is going to get posted chronologically, just creating the history of the project. Right-hand side, we see that cover photo and then location and weather information as well. The core of JobTread, the main reason why people buy our system, is going to be the budget tab right here. This is where you're going to build the estimate before you actually send it along to the customer for approval. So to start building your estimate, you're going to go down to the bottom left and focus on the plus item and plus group buttons. Items are going to be your individualized costs, things like permits, labor hours, deck boards. Groups, think of them as templates. So you might have different templates for different types of projects, maybe a deck template, maybe a outdoor kitchen template, maybe a fence template. But the goal is to really start with groups so you're not having to build from scratch every time. I think the best use case I've seen with deck builders is a primary template with a series of options presented to the customer. So you're not having to use multiple templates. It's just one with the selections built in, and it makes it kind of a gamification for the customer. It's a fun thing. I get to kind of pick and choose what I want, and effectively they get to drive up their own price. You can provide a lower base price and they can drive up the price of the project. So let's start though by adding in individual items, because I could start from scratch, right? And when I click that button, I'm going to see any pre-existing items that are stored in my cost catalog along the left hand side. But as you type, it is going to do a search, and I'll have the option to pull in existing items, or I can create new items on the fly. I'm going to do this for the time being. I want to mention the description is your scope of work, so that will transfer onto the proposal. You're free to write an essay here if you want. It will expand as needed. The quantity and unit are just how many, of course. And in this case, my company's cost is going to be $500, kind of expensive for a permit, but then the price is going to be 30% margin on top. So this is very important. So anytime you plug in your cost in JobTread, it's going to spit out the price to the customer. The idea here is that if you understand your costs, we'll determine the price for you based off the goal profit margin that you're trying to hit. That number can be changed. It can be changed per line. It can be overridden. But one of the most important things you can do from the get-go is just make sure that your default margin is correct. It's telling you what you should charge based off that goal profit margin. Now that I've added a single item into the budget, I want to add a single group. It works similar to adding a cost item. Now I see like the full list of groups that exist within my catalog. These are all the pre-existing templates I've added into the system, right? But if I go and I just type something like pre-construction, that's going to allow me to create a new grouping on the fly, and then I can drag this existing item into it. So, taking this a step further, I might add 5, 6, 10 items into this group. It's just an organizational component that when I get over to the proposal will allow me to organize things, make it simpler, and look the way I want to the customer. Now that we've talked about the basics, I really want to move over now to focusing on you and your template and how you should set this up. I think the answer to that question and the level of specificity just depends on the contractor, of course. We can keep it very, very simple where we're just plugging in a few quantities, or we can go more advanced where we're actually basing our quantities off measurements or parameters. And I'll talk through each of those right now. There's really 3 approaches. I'm going to start by clearing out what I've already done, and I'm going to focus on this globe here in the bottom left of the budget. So this is the global catalog. You'll see along the left-hand side, we have a couple of suppliers that we partner with that allow you to pull in their products. We also have templates down below. So I'm going to focus on outdoor living for the time being. And we have 3 deck build templates, a simple version, a detailed one, and then one that actually incorporates formulas. That's really the goal for me, but I understand not everyone is going to be comfortable with formulas. So I wanted to start with the simple version first. So I'm going to upload this one, and you'll see it's just 2 groups with a number of items under each. And the process for building this out is simply, writing out a scope of work in the description field, plugging in how many of each item, and then of course the cost of each as well. So when you plug in that cost, it's going to spit out the price to the customer, and then you would send it along in the form of a proposal. Moving on from there though, I want to move to the more advanced one. Back in outdoor living, I'm going to click on deck build formulas, and I'm going to upload this. And this one, it has a larger number of items. Of course, I can expand it to see everything, but there's 2 unique things about this. I want to start by talking about selection groups. And so we mentioned providing options to the customer before, and the method of doing that is on the group itself, you would say show details, and you would turn on this toggle that says allow selections. When you do this, you're doing one of 2 things. One is presenting a series of options and you want them to choose between them. That's how we have it set up here with the different deck boards as options. We want them to pick one. The alternative route is to have the minimum set to 0, so they don't have to choose any. The customer isn't required to pick any of the choices, but they can, which would effectively drive up the price of the project. So I'm of the camp, always show the options, even if you forget to bring it up in your conversation in real life, present it on the proposal, because it will remind them, hey, there's additional things we can do to make our project even better. And again, that can help drive up the price. So moving on from here, I wanted to highlight the second unique thing about this template, which is the use of formulas. So notice how a number of these items have TBD set as the quantity. This is your visual indicator that it's just waiting on some parameters to be entered here at the top in order for that quantity to be determined. So when you're setting up an item, you have two routes. One, you can just type in the quantity and you're good to go. That's the simple route we just discussed. Or you can build out a formula that reads from these parameters. And so, for example, we can take something like the old deck square footage and we can, determine how many hours it's going to take to demo that based off the size. And so, again, taking that square footage, maybe dividing it by 100 square feet per hour, that would spit out how many hours we're actually going to spend on the project. So that's just a very simple example of how you can use this. So the current view that we're looking at does not display those formulas that are being used on the items. We have full trainings dedicated to setting up formulas, but I just want to mention real quick, you can turn on this quantity formula column, and this would display the formulas being used. Taking the example I used just a moment ago, the old deck square feet divided by 100, that's just to do something simple like calculate the number of hours it's going to take to complete the project. So, or at least complete that aspect of the project. But again, we have full trainings dedicated to this. I just wanted to make sure I highlighted it though, because this is the tool that allows you to drive up to a job site, pull out the iPad, fill out a couple of measurements, and your proposal's ready for the customer to view. So it's an extremely powerful tool. It just takes a little bit of time to get those formulas set up in the beginning. But let's say we are going to use this template to get it across to the client. I'm going to turn that formula column back off. What we need though is your cost, right? So you need to go through here and plug in your costs. When the template is ready, when it looks good, just know that you can save this, you can export this to the catalog, and that will make it available for every future project that you're working on. In this example though, just for the sake of time, I'm going to select everything and I'm going to use one of these mass actions to update my costs. These mass actions are fantastic because they allow you to do a number of things like modifying the total price of the project, adjusting your profit margin. You get comfortable with the mass actions that you use most, but they save a ton of time. So I'm going to say everything in this job is 50 bucks. Doesn't make sense in real life, so definitely go through here, put in your real costs, but just want to get some numbers in here. And then on the things that are selections, I actually want to change the cost of each of them so I can show you the result for the customer when they are actually making choices. So I'm going to save those quantities and now I have all of my costs filled out. Really the last thing are those parameters. I see all these TBDs still because I haven't filled those out yet. So if you go to parameters up top, it's as simple as plugging in these four numbers. So in this example, old deck square footage, let's say it's 500. We're building a big dog new deck for 750 square feet. 50 linear feet of railing, and we have, let's say, 25 footings. Save that, and you'll see it automatically spits out the quantities of all the items, based off the formulas that were set up. So from this point, our cost is determined, our price is determined. Customer's going to pay somewhere between 223 and 258,000. Again, it's a big dog deck. It's going to be expensive. But if everything looks good, now we're at a point where we can send everything along to the customer in the form of a proposal. So make sure to save in the top right of your screen. And then in the top right as well, there's this plus document button. This is a very important button within JobTread. This is where you're going to take the numbers from your estimating section of the budget and you're going to send it along to different people for different purposes. We have 5 document types in JobTread, the first of which is the bid request system. This is for collecting prices from subcontractors and suppliers. Customer orders are going to be anytime you're obtaining a signature from the customer. You can create different templates for different purposes. One example would be, one is a deck template. The other one is a fence template. Customer invoices, these are anytime you're obtaining money from the customer, you would send off an invoice. Vendor orders are going to be things like purchase orders and work orders for subcontractors. And then bills are going to be your actual costs that you're entering into the system. For now, I'm going to focus on the proposal and I'm going to include everything from my budget on that proposal. And this is going to give me the pretty version that the customer is going to see, but I have the ability to change and modify it before I send it along. There are a number of adjustments you can make to the proposal before you send it along to the customer. I want to focus first on the cover page that we see. This is going to be found under this design tab. My template is using a stock photo I use for every proposal, but there's an additional option here. If I remove that photo, I can just use the cover photo for the job. So this is kind of the question: do you want to have the stock photo, or do you want it to change project over project? I kind of like placing in the stock photo and then adjusting it accordingly if I have a decent image for that customer. Just know it's up to you. Going back into the details, I'm going to scroll down. Here is the contents of the budget inserted into my proposal. Notice how there's these little eyeballs all over the place. This is how you can get very custom and show and hide certain information. For example, if we want to show quantities in units, we can. If we want to hide line item pricing under a group, we can. If I just want to hide all of the items under the group, so we could do that too. So entirely subjective, entirely up to you. We have learned every contractor wants to do it a little bit different, so just know you have options here. Down below, this is where we see like our decking options, our railing selections, and also the optional upgrades. We've included pictures here. It's a great way to help sell the job, show the customer what they're purchasing. That again will help drive up the price of the project. So I think it looks pretty good. I have my full contract in here as well, so I'm going to finalize this and save. And then back at the top, I'm going to click the send button. I can customize the email message if I want, click send, and we're off to the races. As soon as I send my proposal, it's going to switch to pending, and now we're just waiting on the customer to sign. What's really nice is that we can verify if the email was delivered, but take it one step further. As soon as they open the email and as soon as they view the proposal, you're going to receive that notification as well. So on the customer side of things, this is a preview of what it will look like. You'll see your logo, your colors, the custom message that you wrote. And all the customer does is click on the link and they're automatically signed into the portal system. This is the perspective of the customer, and they're going to have this portal system where they're going to receive all the documents. They're going to see the files, the daily logs, the schedule if you decide to share that with them. But this is the one-stop shop where everything's going to be visible. The proposal was effectively just the invitation to that. This is where the customer can comment and ask you questions about the proposal. If they scroll down, this is where they're going to see the contents. Here, they can shop, they can choose the cheapest option, but then have regret and maybe go back and actually choose the most expensive thing so they can play with it and they'll see the impact on their bottom line price. Me, I'm bougie. I'm going to go with the most expensive everything and do all the add-ons. So now I'm sitting at a total of $259,000. So again, this is kind of the gamification of it, the fun part of it for the customer to be able to kind of plug in the numbers, make it fit within their budget, and really have control over the project. Down below, we have a built-in financing option through Acorn. We have the full contract, and then here they would just sign away, approve it, and effectively now you have won the job. This has been approved, and you have set the price of the project. You have set the budget on the job, so you can start tracking your costs, your price, and your profit projections as well. Now we're at the point where we have a signed contract. You may want to send that first deposit. So if we go back to that plus document button in the top right, you can choose the deposit option, and it always will default to the remaining balance. So whatever that approved price is minus what you've already collected. In this case, it's our first invoice. So I could say, let's do a 40% draw. The nice thing about this is that the next time you send the second invoice, it's going to default to the remaining balance. So 60% of the job will be left. I can certainly take further draws from there, maybe collectively doing 5 draws over the course of the project. But this part, totally up to you and your typical invoicing process. This is typically where I'd end a first training, kind of going through the process of estimating, defining, what templates we want to start using moving forward. Getting those quotes out to the customer, in my eyes, is the most important thing. But for the video, I want to make sure I'm covering what else is important to our deck builders. And to me, there's really 3 main things I want to touch on, and that is going to be the schedule, the daily logs, and just general file management. Let's start with the schedule. So now that we won the job, you can certainly go to the schedule tab on that project to see only the things for that one job. You can default to a month view. We also have a built-in Gantt chart. Just because of the kind of quick turnaround of deck projects, most of my deck contractors are focusing on the full company calendar. I've chosen to make my default view the all task calendar. This is showing everything across all jobs. Really nice thing about this view is that you can just hover over a day, click plus task, and then this is where I can fill out all the task details from the name, description. You can set a task type to give a certain color. You can also assign it to individuals and create a checklist and upload files and leave comments. There's a lot you can do with it. But the beautiful thing is that each person will see this on their own calendar if they're assigned as well. If you have a lot of tasks, I'm a huge fan of clicking on view settings and filtering this down. So if I want to filter for just my sales appointments or just my installs, you have that ability and then you can save that as a separate calendar moving forward. Additionally, you can do the same for assignments. So if I only want to see Bob's calendar, for example, just save that as one of your views and you'll be able to quickly access that moving forward. Moving on to daily logs. This is one of the easiest tools to implement, and it's something I try to get all of my companies using. But what are daily logs? At the end of each day, pull out your phone, leave notes and pictures. So effectively all it is, but it's creating a history of the project for you, but it's also something you can share with your customer. And that aspect of it I especially love just because your customer doesn't always understand what's going on within these jobs, right? There's behind the scenes things, there's pre-construction, post-construction. It's nice to give them a record of what's happening so they believe that you're actually working towards completion. And so how this works, I don't think there's a better way to explain than to just do. So I'm actually just going to walk in my backyard. I'll do a quick daily log and we'll show you how it works. I would advise getting everyone at your company on JobTread on the phone so everyone can quickly access job details, do time tracking, and then create daily logs. The first thing I want to show is just pulling up the app, clicking into the job, and then clicking the clipboard icon in the top right of the screen. This is going to initiate a new daily log. This is going to pull the weather for you automatically. And then when you go to type, you have the option on your phone just to do voice to text. I lean towards this just because grimy hands, small buttons, those two things don't work very well together. You can see below I have a series of custom fields too. These can be shared with the customer or not. I'm going to use the internal notes field to talk about his grill. Maybe we can get some free meat out of this thing, but keep scrolling and then you'll find the camera option. So this is where you can do photos, videos. Each file needs to be under 500 megabytes. You should never hit that limit. It's also a great opportunity to take weird photos of yourself and just surprise your owner. But the cool thing is that all of these photos you take it on your phone are going to be accessible in the app as well. And that's going to lend itself to our next conversation. But I can even do videos, right? So I can walk the job site, show what's important, just giving all the documentation I possibly can. Again, you're just creating content. So when you finalize this, again, save, this will be posted to JobTread. Anyone back in the office can now access this too. So now the activity feed is starting to get built out a little bit. We see everything that's happening over time. The nice thing is that these daily log files will actually transfer into the files section, which is the last thing I want to cover today. So we have a grid view, we have a list view, we have the ability for you to organize these files with tags or with file folders, but you've already organized it because you've uploaded those specific files to this job. So they are foldered, but if you want to folder or tag them further, just know that you can. Just click on the individual file and you'll see that option here in the top right. Only limitation at the moment is 500 megabytes per file, which you should never hit. And a really, really cool feature I want to show is the main files tool on the left-hand side. This is going to show everything across all jobs. So if I want to see the grid view, and maybe I want to scope it down to only my demolition pictures, for example, this will give you that. I especially love this tool for deck builders just because it allows you to use tags in tandem. So for example, I could have phase of the project as a set of tags. So demo, in progress, completion. And then I could also have my product lines as tags too. Timber Tech, decorators, Trex. And so if I wanted to pull a list or set of pictures of all my completed TimberTech projects, it makes it very, very simple to pull those up, and it could potentially sell you a future project as well. So I love that tool. Last thing I'll mention, and I'm off the line, is the help desk here at the bottom left. So in the top right, you'll find your dedicated customer success manager. You'll find the JobTread support team, and of course, our library of training videos. We have a team of people over here at JobTread dedicated to your success, and we've had so many deck builders do amazing things with the software. And the best thing about it, to be honest, is that it's only the start. It's only getting better from here. Through your advice, through conversation, this product's only going to improve over time. So thank you for taking the time to watch the video. If you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out to support@jobtread.com. Thanks so much.